Points are actively used in many areas. Let's explore economics of point, which is called a second currency in South Korea. What measures can strengthen economic cooperation in the Northeast Asian region and overcome the recent diplomatic conflicts? Competition in the operating system market gets fiercer with the introduction of smartphones. Major companies are focusing on the market potential and significance of operating systems. Instead of going to expensive nail shops, women can do various nail art at home with this small nail art kit. Let's meet the new idea product that is captivating women around the world. Jang Sung-taek is executed 4 days after being publicly arrested. What are the charges Jang Sung-taek faced as claimed by North Korea? And why was he executed so quickly?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon, and welcome to Bizline. Now, Northeast Asia is the world's third largest zone of economic activity after the European Union and North America. But the region is roiled and divided by a range of political, historical, and diplomatic disputes. Is there a way for the region to be brought more closely together through economics? That's one of the questions we'll be asking later in the show. We'll also be looking at credit card point systems, smartphone operating systems, and an execution in North Korea. So do stay with us. But before we go to those and other features, let's first take a look at all the breaking business and economic news hitting headlines across South Korea this week.
Korea Aerospace Industry signed a landmark export contract with Iraq. The aerospace agency will provide 24 units of the T-50IQ multi-role light attack aircrafts to the Middle Eastern country by 2017 for $1.1 billion. For the 8th consecutive year, Korea's Incheon International Airport has been named the world's best airport. Global Traveler, a U.S.-based travel magazine, gave Incheon Airport the highest scores for its overall facilities and service based on a survey of some 20,000 readers this year. Korea's information and communication technology trade balance reached a new record high in the month of November on rising demand from China and Southeast Asia. The Trade Ministry said the cumulative surplus from the first 11 months of this year reached nearly $82 billion, breaking the record set back in 2010. Korea, the world's 5th largest producer of nuclear electricity, will be even more reliant on nuclear energy in the future. The government's plan is to increase reliance on nuclear power to 29% in the year 2035, which would require a total of between 40 to 42 nuclear power plants.
In the culinary space, Koreans are mad about kimchi. When it comes to beverages, Koreans are addicted to coffee. When it comes to financial services, Koreans are crazy about their credit cards. That's because right now, here in South Korea, a multitude of differentiated cards packaged with a multitude of differentiated point benefits offer a huge range of discounts and special offers on everything from cinema tickets to children's education. So, let's take a closer look at some of these point benefits, which some would say operate almost as South Korea's second currency.
Reward point system is growing in Korea, taking a bigger role in everyday economic activities. Users can accumulate points by using credit card and redeem them by making purchases later. There are a variety of point systems, such as airline mileage, membership point cards, and mobile phone company points. Their use is diverse, becoming a second currency and creating an economy.
아메리카노 3,900원이시고요. 롯데 멤버십 카드 있으세요? 적립과 할인은 동시에 해드릴게요.
It has become a common site where people accumulate points at the cashier.
주로 카페에서 사용할 때도 있고요. 영화관이나 화장품 가게에서 많이 사용해요.
It has become easier to use reward points like cash. Jung-hoon has diligently collected reward points and plans to use them in her shopping today.
결제할 건데요. 먼저 롯데멤버십 포인트 조회 좀 해.
She received a discount on the clothes she bought and purchased a movie ticket for free by utilizing the reward points.
제가 아까 옷 같은 거 구매할 때도 거의 몇만 원, 10만 원 요 정도를 할인을 받는 거나 마찬가지니까요. 어차피 똑같이 돈 주고 사는데 포인트를 적립을 하면 그게 나중에는 현금하고 똑같거든요. 그러니까 그만큼 할인 받는 것도 되고 돈도 더 절약할 수 있어서 저는 이런 포인트 제도를 많이 좀 활용하는 편이거든요.
In the first half of this year, credit card reward point balance was more than $2 billion. Using those accumulated points has increased, and its usage ratio surpassed 80% since 2011. The figure proves that the point system is not limited to a certain type of people, but in wide use.
지금 우리나라의 카드 소비 규모가 2013년 기준으로 따지면 한 500조 규모 돼요. 선진국보다도 높은 수준입니다. GDP 대비로도 굉장히 높은 수준이고요. 40%를 넘는 수준입니다. 따라서 그중에 1%를 포인트로 카드사가 지급한다고 해도 카드로 인해서 발생되는 포인트 규모만 5조가 된다는 얘기죠. 거기에 이제 통신사라든지 또 항공사라든지 또 많은 다른 업종들도 마일리지를 다양하게 만들고 있어요. 주유소라든지 이제 그런 것까지 합하면 집계는 되지 않지만 정확하게 6조는 당연히 넘을 거라고 생각하고 있습니다.
The way consumers use reward points is getting diverse. Many local governments now accept card reward points when collecting local taxes, such as car and residence.
직접 포인트로 자동차세 내보니까 굉장히 공짜라는 느낌? 포인트로 하는 게 이렇게 간편하기도 하고.
Not only could the point pay for maintenance charge for an apartment house and credit card charge, but also be given as a donation and even get exchanged for cash. With the point holding economic value equal to cash, consumers are now choosing cards based on the options they can exercise in redeeming points. Credit card companies are coaxing new customers, saying that it offers higher reward points. As there are so many points being given out, much of them expire without people knowing. Thus, the Credit Finance Association is offering a one-stop service where card users can inquire their accumulated points regardless of which credit card they own.
지금 현재 홈페이지를 이용한 누적 이용자 수는 약 170만 명 정도 이용하고 있습니다. 그리고 홈페이지뿐만 아니라 모바일 앱을 통해서도 편리하게 조회할 수 있도록 만들었고 모바일 앱 이용자도 약 40만 명 정도 누적 이용자 수가 되고 있습니다. 소비자들이 포인트를 좀 더 잘 활용할 수 있도록 그 사용처를 좀 확대하고 있는 추세고요. 이런 포인트 사용처가 확대됨으로써 소비자들은 좀 더 많은 경제적 이익을 누릴 수 있을 것 같습니다.
Credit card reward point system isn't the only system out there. Large conglomerates offer reward systems through their affiliated companies, which is called United Membership Point Card, a loyalty cashback program. Figures show that one economically active person in South Korea possesses at least one or two such cards. They offer membership programs and offer point services to attract customers to their affiliated stores while collecting data on customer spending habits.
고객의 다양한 계열사에서 포인트를 적립받고 사용할 때마다 저희는 다양한 고객들의 소비 정보를 얻어서 고객들을 좀 하나의 싱글뷰로 여러 가지 각도에서 고객들을 분석할 수가 있습니다. 고객들의 예를 들어 고객들의 라이프 스테이지나 라이프 스타일에 따라서 고객을 좀 재분류하고 분류된 고객들에게 그 사람의 특성에 맞도록 개인화된 마케팅을 좀 시행할 수 있어서 고객에게는 더 그 사람한테 적합한 혜택을 제공할 수 있고요.
However, there are some negative aspects to this point reward system. Customers may overspend, thinking that they are collecting points, something they need to avoid. A voice is growing that since reward point system offered by credit card companies is becoming more than just a value-added service, it should be utilized to take more part in economic activity.
사실은 기업은 포인트를 준다는 거는 회계 처리상으로는 비용이 발생하는 거예요. 할인을 해주는 거에 해당이 되니까. 그런 만큼 또 소비자들은 그 마일리지나 포인트를 값어치 있게 쓸 수 있도록 여러 가지 소비자로서의 노력을 해야 되겠죠. 그리고 이제 그런 것들을 잘 중개해 주기 위해서 그 정보를 알려주는 사이트라든지 아니면 중개자가 나서서 예를 들면 쓰지 않고 남은 것들을 모아가지고 의미 있는 곳으로 활용할 수 있게 해주는 역할, 중간에 일종의 매개 역할이죠. 그런 그 매개 역할을 하는 어떤 에이전트 또는 비즈니스 같은 것도 생각해 볼 수 있을 것이라고 봅니다.
Reward point system in Korea has become a successful means of marketing by securing loyal customers while attracting new ones. With the expansion of benefits and using reward card points, scope of economic activities will continue to grow, creating a new economy.
Europe has the EU, or European Union. North America has NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. But Northeast Asia, the region comprising the two Koreas, China and Japan, has no such regional economic bloc. Why not? Should it have one? And if so, how could this possibly be achieved? These are some of the questions we have for our guest today. He's an expert in regional and international relations at Yonsei University. Dr. Jung-hoon, welcome to Bizline.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let's ask you this. Clearly, the world's hegemony is shifting towards East Asia. The Americans are talking about a pivot towards Asia. The Russians are talking about the same thing. Speaking big picture terms, how important is Northeast Asia to the globe and the global economy?
Well, I would say that Northeast Asia, or for that matter, Asia as a whole, is assuming a much bigger role and becoming a very influential pivot, if you will, in global affairs. I would not go as far as to say, however, that the hegemonic power shift is being made from, say, North America or Europe to Asia, because that concept itself of what is hegemony, how hegemonic is Asia, and if you're talking about Asia, are we talking about Asian monolith? Are we talking about the same unit? That's not the case at all. I mean, there are many components to what comprises Asia, and therefore, probably Asia. All we can say at this juncture is that Asia is playing a increasingly significant role in global affairs, particularly in terms of the global economy, and certainly in terms of the political affairs, with China growing in terms of its political influence at the UN, in terms of many other aspects. It is becoming a very, very important actor in international affairs. So in that sense, yes, Asia assumes much larger role than, say, 30, 40 years ago, or maybe even, 15, 20 years ago. That's for sure. But I would not in any way discount the fact that, European Union or the United States still plays a, significant role in global affairs.
Politically and diplomatically, that's particularly the case. But what about for Northeast Asia, though, as an economic unit, which it isn't yet? We'll talk about that in a moment. It's the world's third largest sphere of economic activity. It's got a massive population, of course, particularly with China being sat in the center of it. How important is South Korea as a sort of hub of commerce and logistics in the Northeast Asian region?
We have come a full circle in becoming, in having a Korea brand, a national brand. A lot of our conglomerates like Samsung and Hyundai are becoming, household names throughout the world. And we are also playing a very important role in the diplomatic stage as well. So yes, I would say that, Korea still plays, Korea now plays a very significant role. But when we're talking about Northeast Asia and global politics, really, it's about China, isn't it? China is playing such a dominant role now that when we're talking about Northeast Asia, China does figure in for good and for world.
Now, of course, on the business front, I think many international companies would like South Korea to be a service center servicing China. China's a very risky place to do business. South Korea's regulatory regime is a little more transparent, a little bit kinder. So this is a good bridgehead for companies to penetrate the China market. But to do that, does there need to be a regional economic trade bloc, or at least an FTA between China and South Korea?
Well, especially for a country like South Korea, I would say, live and die by trade. I mean, it's not like we have natural resources where we're not producing oil. So we're taking the route where, we espouse free trade and market economy. And I think that's really what, separates Korea from many other countries in a sense that, we pursue liberal democracy and market economy. These are values that I think that will go a long way. China, of course, is a huge economic bloc, but it is still a communist state. So it's like it's a very interesting phenomenon that's happening right now, where you don't have pluralism politically. You just have one party system. It's communism, and yet there's capitalism. It's almost like oil and water. Yeah, they don't really mix very well, but they've been able to manage that quite well. How long does that last? I don't know. But hopefully that the market economy, the capitalism part will become spill over into the political
and reform the political sphere
arena
from below.
As well. Yeah.
That having been said, I mean the EU, of course, is I suppose the benchmark or the model for a regional free trade group. Its predecessor, the EEC, the European Economic Community, was designed to integrate European economies to prevent further wars in the region. So there was actually a political motive for economic integration. Is there any kind of driving political force in Northeast Asia, perhaps even between South Korea and China, to integrate the economies more closely under some form of FTA?
Oh, sure. I mean, we are very intricately intertwined. European Union, as you've just mentioned, now, of course, since the Maastricht Treaty in '93, we know it as European Union. But even before that, right after the Second World War, there was a compelling desire by the Europeans to create a system, an institution where you would not revert back to the kind of nationalism and which could lead to another tragic war. That's what they tried to prevent, and the European Union integration was considered as the answer, and they pursued that, and they've pursued it so well that now they have the single market, you have the monetary union, you have freedom of movement and the labor. So significant progress has been made in that front. East Asia, we've been talking about it a lot. I mean, we've been talking about somehow applying the European model to East Asia, but unfortunately, the problem with Asia is that we have different political systems. Right. I've mentioned about China being a communist system. We have the communist system, and then we have the liberal democracies like South Korea and Japan. We also have a very different level of economic development throughout Asia as a whole. That doesn't bode well for integration. It's much better if you're at a very similar level of economic development, which helps, but that's not the case with East Asia at all. And then, of course, unfortunately, we still have this hangover over history, be it between Japan and South Korea, Japan and China, China and South Korea, and Russia also plays a part. And these aspects are being played out into conflicting territorial claims, as we see over Senkaku Diaoitai or Dokdo Island, or in South China Sea area, the Spratlys, the Parasols, the Scarboroughs, the Northern Territories, the Okinawa, on and on and on. And therefore, these are aspects that need to be ironed out before we can talk about integration in a genuine context.
But is there a more pressing economic imperative for some kind of regional integration? I mean, right now, South Korea and China have undertaken multiple free trade agreement talks, and this is an ongoing process. And yet, on the other hand, Japan and South Korea, who seem a little bit closer politically, are not really in free trade talks. They've had one round, and now the Japanese are leaning more towards the US-led TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Are we starting to see a gap building on economic integration between South Korea and China and South Korea and Japan?
Well, I wouldn't draw a line as definitive as that, but I can only speak for South Korea, and South Korea is all for free trade. We are the only country in the world that has free trade agreement with both the United States and the EU, the two largest markets in the world. So the more the merrier, as far as South Korea is concerned. Then there's this multilateral free trade agreements that's underway, as you've just pointed out, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which sort of the United States is pursuing. There are 12 countries that's under negotiation to create a market liberalization, basically. South Korea is not out of that. South Korea is measuring the cost and benefits of what it would do. There's strong argument for us joining it because there are experts who consider joining of the TPP as a very important step towards market liberalization and the expansion of Korea's trade, where within the next 10 years, if we join the TPP, that we could expand our economic growth by anywhere between 2 to 2.5 percentage point in 10 years' time.
And would this not be a de facto free trade agreement with Japan?
Yes, it's an expansion. It's a multilateral channel of doing that. Now, if we don't join, there are costs in a sense that those countries that have joined the TPP would prefer to do trade with the member states.
Particularly with Japan, which is such a close competitor
exactly.
in so many sectors.
And the United States.
Korea.
We have to remember the United States, Australia, New Zealand, these are all members. Singapore, they will be members of the TPP, and we will be left out of that, which would have a detrimental effect. Now, there's another big bloc that's being pursued, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which sort of China is taking the lead.
I'm not familiar with that. Briefly, could you outline that for us?
Well, if you wanted to take a sort of like a politically alarmist approach to it, since TPP is the US-led bloc, China is sort of providing an alternative to the TPP.
Because China is not part of TPP.
RCEC. And China, of course, is part of the RCEC, and it would include basically 16 countries, 10 ASEAN countries, plus some of the regional powers, but including like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, who are already members of the TPP. So, and I might have to say that the RCEC does not necessarily exclude the possibility of, say, the United States joining, because it's not saying that, hey, this is a very exclusive club, and later on, no one else can join. So it is open to other countries joining. There are, of course, issues of, overlapping of these rules and norms, but You know, personally, I think that the fact that there's, whether it's TPP or whether it's RCEP or just, you know, straight up bilateral FTAs or maybe trilateral FTAs, it's all good because it is in the pursuit of free trade. And free trade for South Korea, a country that, you know, lives and dies by trade, has to be good. And I think our companies, our conglomerates are competitive enough that under the same rule. That's basically what it is. It's, you know, you're playing by the same rule. And if you're playing by the same rule, I think Korean companies are quite confident that they can win over and be competitive.
Dr. Lee, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for
very
being
welcome.
on Bizline.
Thank you.
Okay. For years, Microsoft enjoyed a virtual monopoly when it came to operating systems for personal computers. But today, the new battleground for OS is mobile. And indeed, major tech companies from across the world are competing furiously to dominate this space. So, who are these players? What are their operating systems? And why is it so critical for them to have a piece of this sector?
Apple's iOS and Google's Android account for 90% of the global smartphone operating system market. Still, the competition to dominate the market isn't over. If the first round of the smartphone OS battle ended with the monopoly of iOS and Android, new operating systems with upgraded power have joined the second round. Can a new leader emerge in the smartphone OS market? Intuitive multi-touch interface. As many as 500,000 applications. Its weak point is that it is only compatible with devices made by Apple itself, and it can be connected to computers only via iTunes. But iOS is gaining a wholehearted support from users as the operating system optimized for iPhone handsets.
애플 같은 경우는 하드웨어부터 오퍼레이팅 시스템, 소프트웨어, 심지어는 그 콘텐츠 에코시스템까지 한 회사가 전부 구축을 하고 있잖아요. 그렇기 때문에 애플의 네트워크에 들어온 사람들, 애플에 락인된 사람들은 철저하게 애플에 충성하는 그런 고객이 되거든요. 그런 고객을 기반으로 해서 스티브 잡스의 유저 익스피리언스, 그 다음에 이노베이션, 이런 것들의 매력을 느낀 많은 소비자들이 발생을 한 거죠.
By opening source code, any smartphone manufacturers can adopt the Android platform. And by using a USB cable, it can be connected naturally to any computer without encoding. With such compatibility and openness, Android has exceeded the unrivaled market share of iOS in just 2 years.
안드로이드 같은 경우에는 여러 디바이스 메이커들에서 파트너십을 구글과 맺어서 개발을 하는 거기 때문에 최적화 관점에서는 일부 이제 iOS보다 떨어질 수가 있습니다. 사용자에 더 맞게 맞춤형으로 커스터마이저블이 된 그런 형태라고 볼 수 있기 때문에 사용자 기호에 좀 더 맞춘다고 그럴까? 그런 측면에 더 나은 것 같고요.
But smartphone OS technology itself is only a partial factor in competitiveness. It is also necessary to embrace developers as the quality and variety of apps are also a crucial factor for users in choosing the OS.
iOS 쪽이 개발 UI를 만드는데 훨씬 더 편하게 돼 있어요. 안드로이드도 그래픽적으로 지원을 해주긴 하지만 원체 장비가 또 다양하고 해서 그 안드로이드 쪽이 솔직히 손은 좀 많이 가는 편인데요. 대신에 iOS 같은 경우는 규제가 많다 보니까 어떤 기능을 막아서 그래갖고 안 되는 경우가 많고 안드로이드는 그런 게 많이 풀려 있지만 그에 반해서 또 OS 자체가 완전히 공개되어 있다 보니까 보안에 취약한 문제가 있고요.
If so, which smartphone OS do users actually prefer to use more of?
저는 애플 iOS를 더 선호합니다. 아무래도 애플에서 직접 검수를 하기 때문에 신뢰성이 있는 앱들이 올라오고 그걸 또 구매하고 사용하는 게 편리하다는 장점이 있는 것 같습니다.
안드로이드 쪽은 어플리케이션 숫자가 많고 제가 활용할 수 있는 게 많아서 저는 그걸 사용하고 있어요.
According to Market Research Institute, IDC, Android stands unchallenged in the OS market at the moment. But the OS market is likely to enter a new phase from next year. The OS war entered the second round with challenges from new operating systems in the market currently dominated by Android and iOS. The much-anticipated new rival in the OS market is Tizen, currently being developed by Tizen Association, an industry consortium led by Samsung Electronics and Intel. Tizen is expected to be applied in various devices, such as cameras and TVs on top of mobile devices. Microsoft Windows, which once ruled the ICT industry, is also seeking to change things around. With its outstanding compatibility to the PC, MS Windows shows off a familiar user interface. As in Google's case, Microsoft is considering opening its paid mobile OS for free of charge. In addition, new web-based OS such as RIM's BlackBerry, Canonical's Ubuntu, and Mozilla's Firefox are competing against each other.
파이어폭스 같은 경우에도 파이어폭스 브라우저가 한국에서는 별로 이제 지명도가 높지 않지만 남미 같은 데는 굉장히 활성화되어 있는 넘버원 브라우저거든요. 그 시장에서 먼저 시장 주도권을 어느 정도 장악한 다음에 메인 시장으로 확대할 수 있는 그런 방법도 있고, TV라든가 아니면 웨어러블이라든가 상대적으로 안드로이드나 iOS의 입지가 덜한 영역, 그런 쪽을 중심으로 진출하는 것도 개인적으로는 하나의 중요한 전략이 아닐까 그렇게 생각이 듭니다.
So why are the global IT giants jumping into the smartphone OS market despite possible losses?
플랫폼이 생기면 주변에 엄청난 비즈니스 에코시스템이 구성이 되거든요. 오퍼레이팅 시스템을 다른 말로 소프트웨어 플랫폼이라고 합니다. 소프트웨어 플랫폼이 구성이 되면 거기에 앱을 파는 사람들, 서비스를 얻는 사람들, 컨텐츠를 얻는 사람들, 그걸 사용하는 소비자들이 생기게 되는 거죠. 그래서 특히나 어떤 OS에 내가 고정되게 되면 그 오퍼레이팅 시스템을 벗어나기가 굉장히 어렵거든요. 이런 락인 효과를 가지게 되면 자사의 제품을 고정적으로 사주는 고객 베이스가 생기는 거거든요.
The reason the second round of the OS battle is more interesting is that the competition has expanded to all the electronic devices from smartphones. The loser in the first round, which was only limited to smartphones, can be the winner in the second round.
앞으로 사물 인터넷 시대에 적응할 수 있는, 다시 말해서 굉장히 이질적인 디바이스 환경에서 사용될 수 있는 오퍼레이팅 시스템이 살아남을 것이고요. 또 한 가지 특징은 클라우드 컴퓨팅이 빅데이터에 등장함과 함께 굉장히 중요해지고 있거든요. 그래서 클라우드 환경에서 애플리케이션을 수행을 시키고 그 방대한 데이터를 잘 정리할 수 있는 그런 능력을 가진 오퍼레이팅 시스템이 미래의 IT 시장을 선도할 오퍼레이팅 시스템이 될 거라고 그렇게 지켜볼 수 있겠습니다.
The second round of smartphone OS war is getting fiercer. We wonder who will turn out to be the winner in this unpredictable competition.
Absolutely charming. It's an inescapable fact of life. Women like to look beautiful, and we have the perfect example right here. As you can see, lovely face, charming hairdo, stylish threads, and of course, the icing on the cake, a charming set of nails. Problem: women who want good nails have to visit a manicurist, and going to a manicurist can cost a small fortune. Given this, a small do-it-yourself nail art kit is now capturing the eyes, the hearts, and of course the nails of women across the world. Let's meet this week's hidden champion.
Most talked about topic among women at all time is about grooming to accentuate their beauty. One of the means to show off their beauty as well as their personality nowadays is nail art, which is getting popular and a must-do for women. Nail art became popular in South Korea only about a decade ago. However, as of 2011, the nail art market in the country by value surpassed $280 million, showing on average a 20% growth.
거의 2000년대부터 유행되고 대중화되고 전문가들이 쏟아져 나오기 시작을 했습니다. 그래서 지금으로서는 다른 나라의 어떤 나라의 기술에도 뒤지지 않을 만큼 세계적인 글로벌한, 그래서 뭐 이젠 뒤지지 않죠. 유행도 선도하고 있고 세계적인 트렌드도 저희 나라에서 이끌고 있다고 해도 과언이 아니리라고 생각합니다.
Lipstick sales tend to rise during recession, in which more expensive goods, such as bags and apparel, shrink. During the recession this time around, nail polish has replaced lipstick. However, making visits to the nail shop can be a financial burden, so rather than going to a nail shop and getting a manicure, women are opting to buy nail polish products and do nail art themselves. In fact, a research conducted by a cosmetic company showed that 17% of women in their 20s and 30s get manicure done at a nail specializing shop, while 83% do it at home. A nail art product shop located at busy Gangnam District in Seoul. Nail imprinting kit, the stamping nail art for consumers who love to do it themselves, is very popular. The stamping nail art lets you put designs by stamping pre-designed images on your polished nail in minutes. You don't have to be a professional nail artist to decorate your fingernails.
네일 아트 하면은 굉장히 시간도 많이 들고 비용도 많이 들고 번거롭다고 생각했는데 제가 손재주가 없는 편인데도 쉽게 따라할 수 있고 집에서도 앞으로도 많이 이용할 수 있을 것 같습니다.
This popular product was developed by Konad of South Korea. It became successful by winning women's heart with an idea that is closely related to their everyday wants. This stamping nail art was introduced to customers overseas before making its debut in Korea. Currently, the product sells in 127 countries around the globe.
1998년도에 미국 뉴욕에 출장을 갔었습니다. 그때 출장 간 지역 옆에 네일 샵이 몇 개 있었는데 사실 그때는 네일이라는 단어 자체도 모르고 생소했었던 그런 데였었는데 여자들이 굉장히 많더라고요. 네일샵 자체에. 왜 저렇게 시간도 많이 걸리고 사람이 일일이 그려야 될까라는 의구심을 품게 됐고 좀 더 간편하고 쉽고 빠르게 할 수 있는 무슨 도구라든지 장치를 만들어서 보급하면 어떨까라는 생각 때문에 개발하게 된 동기가 되었습니다.
The stamping nail art was introduced after 2 years of research and development. Its core concept is doing intricate nail art without spending too much time and money.
사람의 손으로 그릴 수 없는 아티스트의 붓끝에서 나올 수 있는 그런 문양보다도 더 섬세하고 정교한 문양을 자기 손톱에 연출할 수 있다는 그런 장점이 있습니다.
So how economical is it to use the Konad product instead of going to a nail shop for a similar service? It costs on average $30 to $100 for a nail art service at a nail shop in South Korea. However, a stamping nail art kit costs around $12 minimum. A 5ml nail polish included in the kit allows more than 500 uses. But more importantly, a variation in colors is crucial in nail art because each country has different preferences.
일단 유럽과 미국과 한국은 비슷합니다. 어두운 색깔, 또 요즘 트렌드에 맞는 군청색, 남색, 또 실버, 버건디 이런 색깔들을 선호하고요. 일본 같은 경우에는 굉장히 내추럴한 색깔을 좋아합니다.
Konad opened research center to study color. It mixes color to create the perfect color for women of each country with different liking. Moreover, image plates that can accentuate your nail do not come in a single style, but designed to meet the lifestyle and latest trend in individual country.
네일 컬러의 기준은 자신의 피부색과의 조화입니다. 저희 연구팀에서는 국가별, 연령대별 등으로 세분화하여 그들의 라이프 스타일과 피부톤을 분석하여 각 나라별 트렌드를 제안합니다.
Not only that, Konad always looks into making products with higher quality in spite of its inexpensive price tag. Conad has captured the nail art market in 127 countries around the world through continuous research and development based on a novel idea.
저희 회사는 스탬핑 네일 아트에서 출발을 했지만 지금은 기초 화장품, 색조 화장품, 두발용품, 네일 폴리시까지 전 종목을 다 생산하고 있습니다. 저희는 앞으로 향후 스탬핑 네일 아트에 머무르지 않고 전 종목의 코스메틱을 전 세계 여성들이 아름다워질 때까지 계속 연구 노력해서 개발할 생각입니다.
For the perfect styling, for a change of air. Women of all corners of the world are turning to nail art. A South Korean small and medium-sized company is taking the global market by storm with a novel idea targeting niche market in nail art. And for the time being, Conad is more than likely to maintain its top place in the world through its continuous endeavors.
North Korea has recently confirmed, if anyone needed reminding, that it is indeed a dictatorship. Jang Song-taek, the uncle of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, the man widely seen as the number 2 figure in the regime, has been purged and executed. It all happened with shock speed. Jang was killed just 4 days after being dragged out of a very public meeting of the ruling North Korean Workers' Party. What is the backstory here? Moreover, what impact will this shock event have on the politics and on the personalities of the Pyongyang regime moving forward?
정확한 정치적 야심과 음모가이며 만고역적인 장성택을 혁명의 이름으로 인민의 이름으로 전열히 단죄 규탄하면서 공화국 형법 제60조에 따라 사형에 처하기로 판결하였다. 판결은 즉시에 집행되었다.
10 days after his apparent dismissal from all posts was reported by South Korea's intelligence agency, North Korea's state news media announced that Jang Song-taek, one-time regent to his young nephew Kim Jong-un, was executed last Thursday immediately after he was convicted for treason in a special military court. They called him as a traitor and worse than a dog.
공개적으로 이렇게 장성택을 가지고 죄를 묻고 또 공개 처형까지 하고 그걸 이제 또 공개시키는 모습은 사실은 이게 예상 범위를 뛰어넘는 그런 어떤 그 진행 과정에서 이루어졌기 때문에 그야말로 이것은 장성택을 가지고 속전속결로 처리한 것이다 이렇게 볼 수가 있겠죠.
로얄 패밀리에 소위 그 들어가는 인물이라고 볼 수가 있죠. 그 인물을 이런 식으로 공개 처형하는 것은 뭐 거의 뭐 사례를 찾아볼 수 없다 이렇게 얘기를 할 수가 있습니다.
Citing the briefing given by South Korea's National Intelligence Service officials, the nation's 2 lawmakers said on December 3rd that Jang was believed to have been stripped of all his powers after his 2 closest allies were executed on offences of corruption and anti-communist party activities. Then on December 7th, it became clear that Jang had at least fallen from power when North Korea's state-run TV broadcast replayed a propaganda documentary film of its leader Kim Jong-un, after completely editing Jang out of the film. The same clips showed him accompanying Kim Jong-un when it was aired several times in October. North Korea confirmed that Jang had been stripped of all positions and expelled from the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, making him the most prominent figure purged during the 2 years under the youngest Kim's rule. Then, much to the surprise of the world, North Korea's state-run media announced 4 days after Jang's purge was confirmed that he was executed for plotting a military coup. It also showed photos of Jang with his 2 hands bound and his arms held by guards in the special military court. Born in 1946, Jang Song-taek married Kim Kyung-hye, sister of former leader Kim Jong-il. The couple was widely thought to be mentors for their nephew, Kim Jong-un, helping the inexperienced and untested leader of North Korea establish his leadership. In the early days of Kim Jong-un's regime, Jang reportedly purged top elite powers to help Kim Jong-un consolidate his leadership. As for Jang himself, he had been purged twice, but always managed to return more powerful than before. but his good fortune had run out.
반당, 반혁명, 종파 행위를 했다. 이건 그야말로 이제 국가에 대한 반란죄를 했다라는 제목이고, 그 외에 이제 장성택이 여러 가지 이제 대여 사업을 하면서 이권을 챙겼다라고 하는 부패 제목으로 장성택을 처형한 것으로 보입니다.
앞으로 김정은을 대체할 수 있는 인물, 소위 2인자 이런 데 대해서 상당히 우려를 갖고 있다. 그것이 바로 북한과 같이 유일 영도 체제, 그야말로 태양은 하나다. 태양은 두 개가 될 수가 없다. 하는 것이 이제 논리거든요. 그렇다면 장성택이가 또 하나의 태양이라고 하는 그런 그 영향력을 이제까지 갖고 왔다. 그렇다면 빨리 그 태양을 치워주는 차원에서 이런 속전속결을 단행했다. 이렇게 볼 수가 있겠죠.
Jang Song-taek and his associates were also accused of selling off precious resources of the country at cheap prices, causing harm to the nation's economy. Kim Jong-un earlier complained that the country's various resources were sold at bargain prices to China. Jang, known as an architect of various economic policies under the youngest Kim's rule, was in charge of economic partnership with China, the largest trading partner to North Korea. Thus, Jang's execution stoked concerns that a number of economic projects in progress under cooperation with China may stop, delaying the totalitarian state's economic recovery further. In efforts to alleviate such concerns, a senior North Korean official said in an interview with the Associated Press on Sunday that there won't be much change in the reclusive socialist state's economic policies, even after Jang's execution. The country will continue to develop new economic zones, according to the report.
세계적인 유일 영도 체계 구축 작업의 그리고 그 과정의 일환이 아니냐 묻는 시각에 본다면은 오히려 안정적으로 가는 하나의 그 과정이다. 이제 더욱더 이제 김정은으로의 그 어떤 충성 활동이라든가 이것을 강조해 나가는 그런 것이 이제 북한 내부 모습이 될 것 같고, 그 다음에 이제 대외적으로 이런 그 공고화된 안정성을 과시하기 위해서라도 과감한 대외 관계에 나설 가능성이 있다. 이렇게 보게 되겠죠.
The latest political upheaval in the north may further help to consolidate Kim's dynasty, but at the same time, this is also seen as a confirmation of the instability in the north, which generally hides any signs of disloyalty to the Kim dynasty that has ruled since the nation's founding. Any sign of instability in North Korea may heighten tensions on the Korean Peninsula.
단기적으로는 이제 김정은의 통치 기반이 강화되겠죠. 그리고 이제 이번 그 장성택 숙청 처형 과정에서 공을 세운 사람들 위주로 새로운 어떤 권력 구도가 형성되겠지만은 장기적으로는 이제 김정은의 권력 기반이 상당히 그 약화되는 계기가 될 가능성이 높고요. 북한 내부의 이제 불안정성이 상당히 높아졌다 이렇게 볼 수가 있겠고, 이에 따라서 남북 관계나 북한의 대외 관계도 좀 위기, 좀 어떤 위험적인 상황이 좀 발생할 수 있는 그런 상황이 좀 높아졌다 이렇게 볼 수가 있겠습니다.
It seems to be inevitable for North Korea to experience internal strife for a while after purging people connected with Jung. But North Korea should remember that any provocation will only heighten tensions and would not benefit the country. It will more likely isolate itself from the rest of the world.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us next week. We'll be looking backwards at some of the accomplishments of the South Korean economy in 2013. We'll also be looking forward at some of the challenges it may face in 2014. But that's all we have time for right now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Do have a very Merry Christmas. Goodbye.